Welcome to the African Utility Week studio. I am Denise, Content Manager for ngerati.com, and we have the privilege to be interviewing Mr. Rob Doepel. He is an advisory partner for EY. How's the conference been so far?
It's been great. It's been my first time in Cape Town.
Oh, good.
So,
welcome.
I've been enjoying the warm welcome from Cape Town. But yeah, it's been a fascinating couple of days so far.
Good, good. Do you want to just give me a bit of insight with regards to what you hope to achieve at the conference this year?
Yeah, indeed. So so EY obviously got a big practice in Africa.
Yeah.
But we're finding probably more and more pull from our African practices, particularly in power and utilities as well, just because of, I suppose, so much is happening in this sector.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of work around Europe and around the US and so forth. And I think more and more, both myself and my colleagues and so forth are being asked to come and I suppose provide some insights from our learnings in the more some of the mature markets into the African market. Yeah.
You were telling me that your expertise or your focus is more on the smart metering aspect. Can you tell me what the plans are as far as smart metering is concerned? Specifically, should we talk about South Africa to start off with, since we are here?
Yes.
What's happening with smart metering in South Africa? Do you feel that deployment is happening fast enough? Why has it taken so long? Where are we at the moment with smart metering?
It's a really fascinating, because I suppose the drivers for smart metering here are very different to I think in some of the more mature markets, and a lot of the, I suppose, the more successful smart metering deployments have been almost mandated, government mandated, usually and typically on the back of energy efficiency.
Yeah.
So the idea that if we measure and monitor how much energy we use, we'll use less.
Yeah.
And that's predominantly what's happening, say, in Europe. And I think here in South Africa, you've got some different drivers. So yes, energy efficiency is always good.
Yeah.
But actually you've also got things like debt and theft as well, which smart metering can play a massive role in. So I think the business case for smart metering is very strong. The challenge, I suppose, is getting the investment and getting the infrastructure right to attract that investment to allow the programs to take off.
Yeah, and yes, I mean, from what I understand, there are huge amounts of technical and non-technical losses within this country and in most parts of the world, I suppose. But how would smart metering assist with that? How would they help the utility as well as the consumer with regards to that? I suppose consumer at the end of the day would get a lower bill, but how would it help the utility?
Yeah, I suppose from a utility perspective, it allows them to better understand their network, better understand what's happening in the network.
More visibility,
more visibility, more data. I mean, that's one of the challenges, that they'll get so much data and what to do with it.
Yeah.
But you do start to get accurate reads, accurate billing. So it should clear up a lot of billing discrepancies because it's real time and it's accurate.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times we get into disputes around payments is because it's not accurate and people dispute the accuracy. By the time you come back, then you need another meter read and so forth, and it's a cycle. Yeah. So I think it does really improve on that, and also the data that comes back from the smart metering allows you to understand how your network's performing better, and can also identify where you've got potential losses. So you can sort of narrow down within the network perhaps where you're seeing spikes or perhaps not as much usage as you would expect, and start to understand and investigate more locally what's happening with the network.
Would the smart meter be part of a solution to resolving our load shedding issue in some way? Would Eskom be able to better predict?
I think it's
load shedding. Could you sort of have more voluntary?
Moving off, exactly. And I think if you look at the US, for example, and demand side management, what's happening in the US, it's really taking off in certain areas of the US where consumers like you and me are signing up to these.
We can opt in.
We can opt in, exactly.
Get paid for it.
And get, exactly right. And reduce
sounds good to me.
Back to what's in it for the customer. You can reduce your energy bill and also help out, an energy shortage.
Yeah.
And smart metering allows that. You really have to have that smart infrastructure to make that a reality. Yeah. So, we're in a situation in here with all the load shedding and so forth. I think that demand side management is going to become even more important.
Absolutely.
You can keep building generation, keep building plants, but it's very costly, it takes time, and actually a lot of the time we're building it for peak. Yeah. And if we can do other things around reducing that peak, then we have less need for generation.
Interesting. So the smart meter could actually save a considerable amount of money at the end of the day, both for the consumer and for the utility.
Indeed.
Why hasn't this been snapped up earlier? What have been the challenges, or what have been the obstacles? Do you think? Red tape.
I think there's a number of them. I think if I start with the customer first, I don't think we're particularly good as an industry. I don't think utilities have been really particularly good at explaining to consumers just how energy works, how it flows. Smart metering deployments globally, I think, are also characterised by perhaps poor communication with customers. And then people get concerned about privacy, they get concerned about what's happening with this data.
Even safety.
Exactly. So I don't think we've done a good enough job of explaining the benefits, and not just to the individual, but also the sort of the broader benefits for the community, for industry, for the country. And I think that's all the onus is on us to do a much better education point to make people more receptive to smart meter deployments. That's probably one thing.
I mean, that's a whole program and a whole project all by itself, to engage better with your customer.
It is.
Because, I mean, some utilities just don't have that existing relationship from the start. So it's developing that relationship all over again.
Correct.
Strengthening it and then introducing the smart meter. So this is quite a process.
It's very, very difficult, exactly, because they're not coming from a position of high trust.
Yeah.
So you're trying to build a dialogue and conversation with a customer who typically doesn't hold you in high degree at this moment in time because of some of the challenges. I know it's probably true here in South Africa as well. So you're starting from a difficult position to have the conversation. But we have to have the conversation. We have to have a bigger conversation around what our energy, opportunities are for us with smart metering.
So do you think that is the major challenge, do you think, in South Africa specifically has been an issue? And what about the capital to set these up? Has that been a problem as well, just lack of funds?
Indeed, it is. And so you've got, I suppose, one, there's the customer engagement. Then if you come back to what's stopping from a capital side, you've got, it's not as if it's the only thing you can deploy capital on. So you've got infrastructure, you've got networks, you've got generation. So all these things are very capital intensive. So where does the smart metering deployment sit amongst all these other capital heavy demands, if you like? And that's difficult to get that balance right. But what is for sure is that they probably all need investment. So then you come down back to how do you create an environment that can attract that investment from outside of the sector?
For sure.
That give returns, fair returns to attract the investment, but not returns that obviously have to be passed on to customers.
Yeah, exactly, because the customer at the end of the day is the one who's going to either accept that meter or not.
Correct.
Where do you see the smart metering plan going forward in South Africa? When do you think everybody will be linked up with one? And
that's a very good. I wish I knew. There'd be some vendors here who'd be very keen to know that answer, wouldn't they?
What is the prediction?
Look, I think what's happening in South Africa, particularly, it's very regional, very local in terms of the plans, and that's the right approach because each different part of the country has got different drivers and different demands. But I think if you 2020 is fantastic, isn't it? Because I can't wait till we get to 2020 because everything's going to be solved by 2020. Because,
that's the idea.
Yeah, we've had every program, really big sort of
renewable goals, smart metering programs. Everyone's aiming for 2020.
Everyone's aiming for 2020. So by 2021, we're all going to be living in a fantastic world and fantastic environment. But I think these things are going to stretch for the next decade. It would be great to be able to have that infrastructure in place sooner. But I think it's going to be quite a long journey. And we'll have to see some successes, and we have to get that customer engagement. We have to get people actually pulling for it and asking why aren't we doing what they've done over there? And I don't think you've got that yet in South Africa at this moment in time.
Well, I mean, just from my perspective, I live in Cape Town and I don't think I've ever been offered anything like that. So, I'm in the business, so I understand it and I write about it, but no one's offered it to me.
So you should go around here. I'm sure there'll be someone to give you one.
But that's the thing, is that your utility should be offering you this piece of equipment at the end of the day, and that opportunity hasn't been given,
Well, I think utilities have typically in the past, they send you a bill, and that's pretty much the only engagement you get.
Yes, that's it.
And the only conversation you have is when you not happy with the bill.
Exactly.
And that's going to change. And I think, and so therefore not really used to doing it or set up to have that conversation in level of engagement.
All right. Projects within South Africa at the moment that you're pretty excited about?
We're getting lots of, I suppose, questions and requests, I suppose, for assistance in the strategy around smart deployment.
In South Africa itself, or Africa as a continent?
Africa as a continent. Yeah. Africa as a continent. So some pull in South Africa and the local, our local practice are responding to those, but also across broader countries. If you look in across Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, they're all, and pretty much most countries actually have got some form of trialing a smart metering deployment.
Interesting.
And they are, in that trial, assessing the benefits, assessing the options, and looking at what is our plan to roll out. And I suppose that's where we get involved, helping each individual, organisation, be it the utility, be it a government, around what might their bespoke plan need to look like.
My last question for you: if you could give utilities suggestions or advice, what would it be?
I think it'd be around being a little bit more confident in the engagement they have to have with their customers.
Yeah.
I think for too long the utility industry has been very inward thinking and very much around what the industry thinks is the best for consumers, and I think that needs to change. Yeah. So I think my view would be, my advice, I suppose, would be you've got to start to engage in a different way and have a different conversation with your consumers, be they both domestic consumers like you and me, or your commercial and industrial as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, makes sense to me, because at the end of the day, they're the ones paying the bills. Thank you very much for your time. I trust you'll enjoy the rest of the conference, and that will be a successful one.
Indeed.
And to our viewers, thank you very much for joining us. You'll see on the site there are a number of studio interviews that you can have a look at. Enjoy them. Thanks for joining us.